look it up for yourself. Let me see. I think I have it in the back of this book. Here we go. Timeline. Adam to Jacob. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do you all see there? 6. Jared. Notice that if you look up that in the King James Version, you're going to see it. Let me show you. New King James. Let's look at, and I just want to do this real quick before we get to going. Let me see. Because you know Noah was number 8. Noah was 8. Let me use my other. Where is the word Jared here? There it is. Verse 16. Mahalal lived 65 years, begot Jared. Jared is the one. You know how the Messiah's name was given to Moshe's apprentice, Moses' apprentice? What was Moses' apprentice's name? Anyone? What was Moses' apprentice's name? That's right, Yason. And how do we say that in Hebrew, Yason? How do we say Joshua? Exactly, Nazareth. Yahusha. Who was the one that took the children of Israel that came out of Egypt into the promised land? It was Joshua. It was foreshadowed that our Messiah was going to come in the name of Yahusha. That's his name. That's his name. That's why Moses was not allowed to take the children of Israel into the promised land over the Jordan. And so what am I saying here? I believe we have a foreshadow of the name of the anti-Messiah as well. His name is Yared, the 6th man down from Adam. And do you know what happened in the days of Jared? Back in the day? Let me see if I can find it for us. Give me a second. What about women preaching? Well, that's all throughout the New Testament. Women can preach. They just can't be head over men. That is out of order. There is prophetess. Okay? There are deaconess. There is nothing wrong with a woman preaching and teaching. It's when she is the head of the congregation. That is not only is it in disorder, but it's dishonoring the structure that Yahuwah has created. Just like Shaul, Paul understood, he says that the man wasn't made for the woman was made for the man. Now, all you ladies, again, my sisters, I'm just sharing with you what the scripture says. We all have to be in obedience to the word. We don't make up our own words or our own doctrine. Once again, women are allowed to teach. They are allowed to preach. But when it comes to being overseers of an assembly like Paula White is doing, that's wrong. That's totally wrong. look for this passage about Jared real quick. Jared, I don't know why I don't see it at this moment, but it says in the days of Jared, the earth was divided. Someone find that for me and send it my way so I can show it to everyone. Look up about the days of Jared and how the world was divided. Yes, Deborah was a prophetess. Even she understood her position. Oh boy, I don't see it here. I know somebody will find it. Also associated, Jared's time was the descendants of the Watchers. Exactly, Ben. Exactly. And that's what we're getting ready to see again. What does it say in the Word? As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the son of Adam returned. And what was happening in the days of Noah? These fallen ones came down. Begotten, lived, so dollars Mahallel 100. There's a passage here where I'm looking for where it literally says that in the days of Jared, the earth was divided. Verse 16. Maybe it's this translation because it doesn't say. It says after he begot Jared, Mahallel lived 830 years and had sons and daughters. It doesn't say anything more than that. So there it says to Eber, and that's where we get the word Hebrew from Aber, who bore two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided. And so what I was sharing about Jared, maybe we are told the name of the anti-Mashiach, foreshadowing the name that he would come in. And here he is with everything that's going on this earth right now. He's sitting in the cut. He's the one that brokered this peace deal and had President Trump officiate all of it. But he was the mastermind behind it. He was the one that was sent out as an ambassador to Saudi Arabia, to UAEA. He was the one who went out there and did that. First Enoch 6:6. Ben, let me look at that. Let me see what you got there, Ben. 6:6. Yes. And they were all, let's see, and they were in all 200, meaning those that descended upon Mount Hermon, right? Who descended in the days of Yared. Ben, I like you, Ak. Thank you for bringing that up. That can be, once again, a foreshadow of the fallen ones coming again. Again, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the son of Adam returns. And here it is, we have Jared, once again in our midst, in that name, who put that agreement together that we read in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. I truly don't. I really, truly don't. Again, looking at that passage before we read First Kings. Thank you, Hebrew Views. And he shall confirm an agreement with many for 1 week. And in the middle of the week, he, again, this anti-Mashiach, shall put an end to slaughtering and meal offering. And on the wing of abominations he shall lay waste, even until the complete end, and that which is decreed is poured out on the one who lays waste. Could it be that he is the one? Watch him, family. Because again, what does it say in 2 Thessalonians? That is also known as your Christmas tree. They're all one and the same. Fertility goddesses. So let's go back to 1 Kings 16 and let's continue. Yeah, we got some of these Christians wanting to leave because they don't want to hear this kind of message. You don't want to know that your Christianity has given you Easter, which is written right there in the King James Version, that everyone says it's the best translation of the scriptures. Why would you have a Phoenician deity and gloss over the Passover and you call it Easter instead of Passover? Okay, you don't want to say it in the Hebrew tongue and say Pesach, but you want to say Easter? That's ridiculous. Why would you say that? Why would you use that? Like, why would you call the Creator Lord? Baal. And so Ahab did more to provoke Yahuah. He did more to provoke Yahuah because he made this Ashtoreth. He made this Ishtar image. He made this Statue of Liberty. And you don't think the United States is about to get judged? That mystery Babylon that's sitting over here that judges and rules over all the kings of the earth and has caused all the world to be drunk of her golden cup, which has been connected to the Catholic Church, who created this place called the United States of America? Maybe this is a little too close to comfort for some of you, but I'm only sharing this with you Christians because you need to know the truth. You need to stop drinking the Kool-Aid. You are following a blind guide, and your Creator, your Messiah, He's trying to open up your eyes because He loves you. But no, you want to take it as somebody trying to hurt you and hurt your feelings. No, it's not about hurting your feeling. The truth hurts. I get it. I used to be a youth pastor. I used to teach this to kids. Faith, you can't keep calling Him the Lord anymore. If you know what is happening here and you say that your eyes have been opened, Faith, don't call Him Lord. Don't call Him Lord. And if you stay here long enough, Faith, I want you to see why I'm saying that. Because you're going to see what is happening. There is a division, a schism, a divide between Yah's people and those who follow the Lord. You got to see it. You have to see this. Yes, Faith, this is beautiful that you're here and it's not by accident. That's why I'm saying I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to see this because, again, I was just like you. I didn't get it the first time. I didn't get it the second time. I didn't get it the third time. I don't know how many times it took before Yahuah finally had mercy on me, mercy on my being so that my eyes can see His truth. And that's why I'm here right now, wanting to share the greatness of our Master, of His love and His forbearance and His compassion and His long suffering towards us, that He wishes none to perish. And in His days, Halal or Ha'il of Bathal, which means the house of the mighty, built Jericho. He laid its foundation at the cost of Abram, his firstborn, and at the cost of his youngest son, Segub. He set up its gates according to the word of Yahuah, which He had spoken through Yahusha, that is Joshua, the apprentice of Moses, the son of Nun. Now, if you remember the conquest of the walls of Jericho falling down, as we said earlier, it was Yahusha, not Moses, who you know as Joshua. His real name in Hebrew, the pronunciation is Yahusha, the same as our Messiah who came here, not Jesus. His name is Yahusha. Okay? He was the one that took the children of Israel into the promised land over the Jordan River on dry ground. And when they took down Jericho, He says, "Curse be upon anyone who erects and builds upon the foundations of Jericho again." And that's what happened here. This is why in the days of Hill, He built this house up on Jericho, and He lost his firstborn, Abiram, and He lost his second son, his youngest born, Segub. The curse was on him. So let's continue. Chapter 17, verse 1. And Eliyahu, you may know him as Elijah. Eliyahu, Ali, meaning my mighty, is Yahu, is the I am. So my mighty one is the I am. That's what his name means, Elijah. Okay, Eliyahu. The Tishbite of the inhabitants of Gilad said to Achab, again, the father, or the father's brother, as Yahuwah Elohim, the mighty one of Yasharal lives, before whom I stand, there shall be no dew or rain these years, plural, except at my word. This is what Eliyahu, the prophet, is saying. And it goes on to say here, and the word of Yahuwah came to him, that is to Eliyahu, you know him as Elijah, saying, go away from here and turn eastward and hide by the wadi, or the creek Kerith, which flows into the Yarden. You know it as the Jordan. And it shall be that you drink from the stream, and I shall command the ravens to feed you there. And he went and did according to the word of Yahuwah, for he went and dwelt by the wadi, that is the creek Kerith, which flows into the Yarden, the Jordan. And the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the stream. And it came to be after a while that the stream dried up, because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of Yahuwah came to him, that is to Eliyahu, Elijah, saying, rise up and go to Zarephath, which belongs to the Zidon, and dwell there. See, I have commanded a widow there to sustain you. He commanded a widow there to sustain him. And he rose up and went to Zarephath, and came to the gate of the city, and saw a widow there gathering sticks. And he called and said to her, please bring me a little water in the vessel to drink. And as she was going to get it, he called and said to her, please bring me a piece of bread in your hand. And she said, as Yahuwah, your mighty one lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin, and a little oil in a jar. And see, I am gathering a couple of sticks, and shall go in and prepare it for myself and my son, and we shall eat it and die. This is how serious the starvation was going on at that time because of the drought. There was a famine in the land. And Eliyahu said to her, do not fear. Go and do as you have said, but make me a small cake from it first. Notice that. And bring it to me. And afterward, make some for yourself and your son. So here it is that Eliyahu the prophet is telling this woman, I know you only have a little. He's telling her to act out in her faith, in her belief. Take what you have, the little bit that you said that you have, that you and your son is going to eat. You're going to eat your last morsel of food, and then you're just going to croak. You're going to die. No. Give me first, and then feed you and your son. For thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal, the bin of flour shall not be used up, nor the jar of oil run dry, until the day Yahuwah sends rain on the earth. So she went. She didn't ask no questions. She believed and did according to the word of the prophet Eliyahu. And she and he, meaning her son, and the household ate for many days. And the bin of flour was not used up, nor did the jar of oil run dry, according to the word of Yahuwah, which he spoke by Eliyahu. Now, why do I have to bring this up? Because this is all lining up with prophecy. Why I bring up this whole passage? Because of so-called Pastor Paula White. Let me take you to the New Testament real quick. Let me put my bookmarker here. We're going to go to the book of Yaakov. Chapter 5, verse 17. Eliyahu, the same Elijah that we just read from 1 Kings chapter 16, or now 17, was a man with feelings like us, like you and me, family, like all of us, you Christians, and us too, the Nazarene, those who follow the Nazarene. And he prayed earnestly that it would not rain. And it did not rain on the land for 3 years and 6 months. That is 3.5 years, or 42 months, or 1,260 days. Why is that significant? Let me show you. Let's go to the book called Revelation, Hazon. Let's go to chapter 12. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's go to chapter 11. Revelation chapter 11. But cast out the court which is outside the dwelling place, that is the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles, that is to the nations. And they shall trample the set apart city underfoot for 42 months. That's 3.5 years. And I, meaning Yahuwah, the Creator, shall give unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. Once again, 3.5 months. Revelation chapter 12. And the woman fled into the wilderness. That woman is the 12 tribes of Israel. Right here. She had 12 stars over her head. The 12 stars represents the 12 tribes of Israel. You can read that in Genesis chapter 37, verse 9, when Joseph had a dream about how his dad, which is the sun, his mom, which was the moon, and his 11 brothers, which were the 11 stars, were going to bow down and worship him. And so it says here that this woman, which represents the 12 tribes, and we know who the 12 tribes are because they represent 12,000 from each tribe in the book of Revelation chapter 7, 144,000. This is the 144,000. The 144,000 fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by Elohim, by the Creator, to be nourished there. Notice the word nourished, taken care of with bread and meat, just like Elijah, for 1,260 days, or 42 months, or 3.5 years. But notice what else happens during that time. And he, meaning the anti-Messiah, was given a mouth speaking great matters and blasphemies, disrespects, and he was given authority to do so for 42 months. 42 months, 3.5 years. And he opened his mouth in disrespect against our Creator, Elohim, to blaspheme his name and his tent and those dwelling in heaven. And it was given to him, that is the anti-Messiah, to fight with the set apart ones, that's you and me, the saints of the Most High, to overcome them, meaning that he's going to unalive us by beheading. And authority was given to him over every tribe and every language and every ethnic group, and all those dwelling on the earth whose name was not been written in the book of life of the slain lamb, which we know that is our Messiah, Yahusha, from the foundation of the world, shall worship him. Who's the one that they're going to worship? The anti-Messiah. And through the anti-Messiah, they're going to worship the dragon, who is Satan. This all is going to occur in this same time period that you all know as the Great Tribulation. Yes, you are going through the Great Tribulation. There is no such thing as the church being taken away, as your so-called fake teachers have told you. Oh, because there's no word. You don't see the church anymore after Revelation chapter 4 because they're gone. They've been taken away. They've been harpazo. They've been raptured. I used to teach that same mess until the Creator opened my eyes and allowed me to see that is a lie, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But let's get back to First Kings chapter 17. I wanted you to see the connection of the 3.5 years. That this rain that did not come down for 3.5 years is speaking of what is being shut down. The word of Yah, the water, the giver of life, is not given to anyone else through this 3.5 year period. It's only given to those of us who have been sealed, saved, and we shall be delivered from the lake of fire. And so it says again, verse 14, for thus said Yahuwah, the mighty one of Yasharal, the bin of flour shall not be used up, That is the bread that came down, the manna that came down from heaven. Can you see it symbolically, spiritually speaking, the spiritual application? Nor the jar of oil, that is the anointing of the Ruach HaKodesh. You may call it the Holy Spirit. We call it the set-apart spirit. It shall not run dry until the day of Yahuwah. What is the day of Yahuwah? That is his second coming, when he sends rain upon the earth. That is going to be his judgment. Just like the rain that happened on the days of Noah, so shall it be when the Son of Man returns, Son of Adam returns, who is the Messiah, his second coming. Hallelujah, Yahuwah. So she went and did according to the word of Eliyahu, and she and he and her household ate for many days. Once again, that's you and me. Nourished for a time, times and half a time. 1,260 days, or 3.5 years, or 42 months. It is all the same period. And after these events, it came to be that the son of the woman who owned the house became sick. Her son became ill, and his sickness was very severe until there was no breath left in him. And she said to Eliyahu, "What have I to do with you, O man of Elohim? Have you come to me to bring my crookedness to be remembered and to unalive my son?" And he said to her, "Give me your son." So he took him from her arms and took him to the upper room. Notice that, took him to the upper room where he was dwelling, and laid him on his own bed, and cried out to Yahuwah and said, "O Yahuwah, my mighty one, have you also brought evil on the widow with whom I am sojourning? I am here staying with her." That's what he's saying by sojourning, to unalive her son. And he stretched himself out on the child 3 times and cried out to Yahuwah and said, "O Yahuwah, my mighty one, I pray, let the life of this child come back to him." Resurrection. After 3.5 years, the resurrection happens. Hallelujah. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying to you. And Yahuwah heard the voice of Eliyahu, the prophet, and the life of the child came back to him, that is to us, symbolically speaking, spiritually speaking, the body of the Messiah. And he lived. We are alive. And Eliyahu took the child and brought him down from the upper room, that is from the Shamayim, from the heaven, into the house, that is into New Jerusalem. For in my Father's house are many mansions, and gave him to his mother. Who's the mother? New Jerusalem. She's the one from above. She prepared herself as a bride adorned, as it says in the book of Revelation. And Eliyahu said, "See, your son lives. The body of the Mashiach lives. You and I will live." Even through the drought, the 3.5 years. And the woman said to Eliyahu, "Now by this I know that you are the man of Elohim, and the word of Yahuwah in your mouth is truth." Eliyahu represents, symbolically speaking, an archetype of the Messiah, the word of Yahuwah. Who is the word of Yahuwah? The Mashiach. He is called the word of Elohim. The word was Elohim. I hope you all can see that as well. Now we go into chapter 18. Let me get a swig of this water real quick. Now we're about to deal with Paula White. I had to bring all that up because now it's going to line up, and you're going to see that it's talking about the same time, the same reference, layered on top of each other, what we're getting ready to read. Here we go. Before I read this, Ivy, you say, "What do you think about our children, though, Brother Jimmy, if they are still little when he comes?" Your children are under the age of 20. Again, if you go back and look, if you remember, for those of you, thank you, Jorah, thank you for reminding me. If you go back and look at the story, when the children of Yasharal were to take the promised land, do you remember what it said that Moses said to the elders of Israel, because they brought back an evil report about the land of Canaan, and they didn't believe the word of Yahuah? Only Yahusha and Caleb believed. Yahuah said, all of you, because you did not obey my voice, your bodies shall die in this wilderness. But you say, but what about the children? Oh, don't worry about the children. All your children who are under the age of 20 shall enter into the promised land. So what are we being told? The age of accountability is 20. So your children, Ivy, if they're little at that time and they're not over the age of 20, they will enter into the kingdom. Okay, back here at 1 Kings chapter 18. And after many days it came to be that the word of Yahuah came to Eliyahu, that is Elijah, in the 3rd year. Remember what we read in James chapter 5, verse 17, that this drought was for 3.5 years, okay? Just remember that. Saying, go, present yourself to Achab, that is Ahab, and I give rain on the earth. Thereupon Eliyahu went to present himself to Achab, and the scarcity of food in Shamaron, or that is Samaria, was severe. And Achab had called Obadiah, you may know him as Obadiah, the same prophet that's here in the Old Testament, who was over his house, over King Ahab's house. Now Obadiah feared Yahuah exceedingly. And it came to be while Jezebel, that is Jezebel, cut down the prophets of Yahuah. Notice what she did. She unalived the prophets of Yah. That Obadiah had taken 100 prophets, that is the prophets of Yahuah, and hid them 50 to a cave, and had fed them with bread and water. Once again, Yah's people, the prophets that weren't unalive, was taken care of in these caves in the wilderness with bread and water. And Ahab, that is the king, had said to Obadiah, go into the land to all the springs of water, and to all the wadis, to all the creeks. It could be that we find grass to keep our horses and our mules alive, and not have any livestock cut off, or that is to be unalived. And they divided the land between them to pass over it or to look through it. And Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. And as Obadiah was on his way, then see, Eliyahu met him. And he recognized him and fell on his face and said, is that you, my master Eliyahu? And Eliyahu answered Obadiah, he said, it is I. Go say to your master, that is to King Ahab, I am here, or Eliyahu is here. And he said, what have I sinned? What have I done wrong? That's what he's saying, that you are giving me, your servant, to go into the hands of Ahab for him to unalive me. As Yahuah lives, your mighty one, there is no nation, or there was no kingdom, or reign, no empire, where my master, that is King Ahab, has not sent to look for you. Why was he looking for Eliyahu? Because King Ahab was angry with Elijah because he has brought about this drought, because he prayed to Yahuah, as you guys remember here at the beginning of chapter 17. Right here, he says, as Yahuah lives, the Elohim of Yasharal, before whom I stand, there shall be no dew or rain these years except at my word. King Ahab did not like that. And so at that point, he pretty much had a bounty on his head. He had a bounty on Ahab, or Eliyahu's head. And so this is why Obadiah was scared. He's like, you're going to have me killed if I go over there and say that you're here and you don't show up. And so he says that how he was looking for Eliyahu through all the nations. And so it says, and when they said, that he is not here, that Elijah is not here. He made the king or the reign or that kingdom and that nation swear that they could not find you. And now you say, go and say to your master that Eliyahu is here, that you're here. And it shall be as soon as I am gone from you, that the Ruach, the spirit of Yahuwah, will take you away to a place, and I don't know where you're at, is pretty much what he's saying. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know. I don't know where you're at. And I shall come and report to Ahab, that is to his king, his master, and when he does not find you, he shall unalive me. But I, your servant, have feared Yahuwah from my youth. Was it not reported to my master? Did you not hear about what I did, is what he's saying? That when Yazabal unalived the prophets of Yahuwah, how I hid 100 men, that is of the prophets of Yahuwah, 50 to a cave, and fed them with bread and water? And now you say, go, say to your master, Eliyahu is here, then he shall unalive me. And Eliyahu said, as Yahuwah of hosts lives, before whom I stand, I shall indeed show myself to Ahab, to him today. And Abadiah then went to meet Ahab, and informed him. And Ahab went to meet Eliyahu. And it came to be when Ahab saw Eliyahu that Ahab said to him, is that you, O disturber of Yasharal? In other translations, it'll say, O you troubler of Israel? And he, meaning Eliyahu, answered and said, I have not disturbed or troubled Yasharal, but you and your father's house, in that you have forsaken the commandments of Yahuwah, you have followed the Baals. You have followed the lords. Now let me ask you, Christians, for those of you who are still here listening to me, those that are inside this room, and those of you who are outside of this room listening to my voice, what does Christianity teach you? Do they not teach you to forsake the commandments? Do they not teach you that the law has been done away with? Do they not teach you that the law has been nailed to the so-called pagan cross? Yes, they do. And so here it is, Elijah is saying that I haven't disturbed you. I ain't the one who's troubling Israel, but you and those that are like you who have forsaken the commandments of Yahuwah, you are following the Lord's. You are calling on the name of the Lord. You are not calling him Yahuwah. You have forsaken his name. You may say, you're reading into that. Let me show you guys something real quick, Christians. Because as we go along with this story and what's happening, you need to understand what is being told to you. Exodus chapter 20, verse 7, which is where you can find the 10 Commandments, by the way, Christians. You do not bring the name of Yahuwah, not the Lord, Yahuwah, your mighty one, to nothing, not in vain. That's why you forgot it. Because you weren't to know it, because the way your translators have put it into your King James Version, because the way your translators have put this word in the New King James Version, and because your translators who have put it into the NIV, and so on and so forth. They have made you forget his name. You made his name into nothing. That's what not means. Nothing. Notice what he says, for Yahuwah does not leave the one unpunished. Unpunished. What does it mean to be unpunished? He is going to come after you, who brings his name to nothing. You may say, wait a minute, I didn't do it. Let me show you what most people don't read. It's called the preface. And I'm going to show you here in the New King James Version. And you can look at any of yours if you guys have one of these expensive books where they tell you a little bit about how they formatted your so-called Bible. That's the book for you. The format. You see this asterisk right here? Let's read what I have underlined. And I'm going to read it verbatim. The covenant name of God was usually translated from the Hebrew as Lord. You see that, Christians? The word Lord is Baal. Again, look it up. You can put it into your internet search. Just put H-1167 and you're going to see what comes up. Baal means Lord. Or G-O-D, God, okay? So they think by doing all of this, it's going to be okay. But let's continue. Using capital letters as shown in the King James Old Testament. This tradition, notice that, not this truth, but this tradition is maintained. In the present edition, the name is so capitalized whenever the covenant name, notice it says whenever the covenant name is quoted in the New Testament from a passage in the Old Testament. What are they telling you, Christians? What are they telling you? They're telling you that they have purposely, with this tradition of men, have caused you and I to error in the truth. And we did exactly what the third commandment says. You do not bring the name of Yahuah, your Elohim, your mighty one, to nothing. For Yahuah does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to nothing. And so when we go back here to 1 Kings chapter 18, and I read this to you, you're going to see how it makes sense. 18:18. And he answered, meaning Elijah, Eliyahu, the prophet of Yahuah, I have not disturbed Yasharal. I haven't troubled Israel. I haven't troubled you Christians, but you and your father's house, in that you have forsaken the commandments of Yahuah. And you have followed the Baals, the Lord. You have followed the traditions of men by forgetting his name. And you might say, well, that's not what it says there. Let me take you to Jeremiah chapter 23 real quick. It's going to make all the sense in the world to you now. Notice what it says here. I have heard what the prophets have said who prophesy falsehood in my name, and saying, I have dreamed. Till when shall it be in the heart of the prophets of falsehood, and the prophets of deceit of their own heart, who try to make my people, let me read that part again, who try to make my people forget my name by their dreams, which everyone relates to his neighbor as their fathers forgot my name for Baal. There it is again. And what does Baal mean? Lord. And so this is why you see it all over and all throughout the King James Version and the New King James Version and the NIV and the NASB and the New Living Translation, and the list goes on with all these translations that have removed, erased, obliterated, exterminated the name Yahuah and gave you Baal. You are following the Baals. I'm not the one troubling you with this information. I'm not the one that's disturbing you with this truth. You're destroying and disturbing and troubling yourself because you don't want to hear this truth. It's staring you in the face. This is a prophecy. This was told to Jeremiah way before the 1611 King James Version was even printed, before the printing press was even put together. It was telling us what was going to happen. We're going to do just like our ancestors. We're going to forget his name. We're going to make his name into nothing. And this is why none of you, most of you Christians, don't even know the name. You think it's Yahweh. You think it's Yeshua. You think it's Yahshua. No, it's not that. It is Yahusha. And his name of the Father is Yahuah. He made this very clear, but we lost it through the ancient times by these people that came and wrote these books for us. And now they're going to tell us what his name is. Oh, his name is the Lord. For the Lord says, and so now you think because the third commandment says you shall not take the Lord thy God's name in vain, it says the Lord thy God's name in vain. First of all, neither one of those are his names. So you can't put the Lord thy God, but again, they erased his name, and you think it means in vain, which means many of you think if someone says God damn or Jesus Christ and they use it out of context. The Creator don't care about those names. Those are not his names. Those are pagan names to pagan deities. I just showed it to you. Baal comes from a Phoenician deity. The word God comes from Gadriel, a fallen angel. People want to keep saying it's a relationship. You keep going on and thinking it's a relationship, my friend. It's more than a relationship, because if you know him, you're going to love his name. You're going to love his name, just like I was sharing with the group yesterday. You see, you're one that despises his name. Let me show you right here. And I'm going to show you this in the book of Psalms. 74:10, right there. You're the one who says that, oh, it's only about a relationship. It's more than a relationship. That's what Christianity teaches you. In fact, let me show you this one other one before I take you there. For look, this is in Jeremiah chapter 25. For look, I am beginning to bring evil upon the city which is called by my name. And should you be entirely unpunished? You are not going unpunished, for I am calling for a sword on all the inhabitants of the earth, declares Yahuwah of hosts. You still think you're going to go unpunished, my friend, that think it's only a relationship? You don't have a relationship if you don't know him. You don't know him. Because the same one who says it is a relationship, you probably don't believe in keeping the law, because you believe that the law has been done away with and you think it's been nailed to the cross. But let me take you to Psalm 74:10, and we're going to get back to 1 Kings. 74:10 of the book of Psalms. O Elohim, how long would the adversary reproach? Those of you, you're his adversaries. Would the enemy despise your name? You are his enemy because you despise his name. Forever? What does it mean to despise? That means to loathe. That means to look down. That means to have disrepute of his name. You lower his name because you want to continue to give yourself an excuse to call him Baal, which is Lord. Well, I don't speak Hebrew. Yeah, well, you don't speak Greek either, but you call him Jesus. You call him Jesus. That's not English. And the word Christ ain't English either. It comes from Hindu. That's a Hindu tongue from Krishna. That deity is called Christ. And when Alexander the Great made his conquest towards the eastern parts of Western India, they came across this six-armed looking deity called Krishna, Vishnu. And it was called Christ. And so they took it back with them, and now they call it Christ. And so when you get the Greek manuscripts that they changed from the original tongue of the New Testament, which was in Hebrew, they whitewashed it. They Hellenized it. And they gave you Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. And Constantine confirmed it at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. This is how all of this has happened. But many of you don't know the history of your belief, what you call yourselves Christianity, Christianity. The Messiah never went around calling himself Christ, and no one in Israel was using a Greek name to call him Jesus. His name was Yahusha. It's a Hebrew name. You see, even though you may not see racism in the scriptures, it's all throughout the word. That's why they wanted to change it and whitewash it. This is why they removed anything that has everything to do with a melanated people. And they've caused the melanated people who, by the way, not your fault and not your ancestors' fault, because we disobeyed the Creator. And we put the Messiah, who he came to see his own people, and we did not accept him. He says, but another one will come in his name, John chapter 6 or 5, verse 43, and you'll accept him. You're going to accept his name. What is that name? because we didn't accept him. Jesus Christos, the Greek deity of the pantheon of Greece, Zeus. And so let's go back here to 1 Kings chapter 18. As we said in verse 18, I have not disturbed Yasharal, I have not disturbed Israel, but you and your father's house, in that you have forsaken the commandments of Yahuah, and you have followed the Baals. Just like what Christianity is doing today, nothing new under the sun. You've forsaken the commandments, and you're calling him Lord. You're calling him Baal. And now send and gather all Israel to me on Mount Carmel. What is Mount Carmel? Mount Carmel is a fruitful mountain, very green, very plush. The 450 prophets of the Lord, also known as Baal, and 400 prophets of Asherah, also known as Ishtar or Easter, who eat at Jezebel's table. They are all eating from the woman's table, that prophetess who wants to rule over a man, who wants to be the one in charge. Just like your Joyce Myers and Paula White and Juanita Bynum